Hey YouTube, this is my first video and I'll be making NFL predictions for week 1. I was watching the Thursday and Friday night games and decided I wanted to make my own YouTube channel so I could talk about something I love. The channel is called Reserve Sports, in which I'll mostly be talking about football but might branch out later on. I know the Chiefs and Eagles already won their games, so I'll not be including them in my predictions for this week. And with that being said, let's get on to the video. Starting us off with Panthers versus Saints, what a way to start off. Saints still seem like a team that are doing everything they can to hold on to what they once were, when it's probably time for them to just rebuild given the aging pieces on their defense. Panthers, however, gave up their best piece in Brian Burns to the Giants. However, they still have young talent on that defense, such as Derek Brown, as well as hoping Dave Canales coming over from Tampa can help develop Bryce Young into a better quarterback with some new additional weapons, which might have this offense looking completely different from last year. With all that being said, I think I'm gonna lean Panthers on this one. Up next, we got the Minnesota Vikings versus the New York Giants. Now, Danny Dimes still leads the Giants offense, which I don't really have high hopes for this year. As previously mentioned, the Giants acquired Brian Burns from the Panthers over the offseason, which makes me believe this Giants front seven could be really good this year. However, the Vikings with Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, I just feel should be able to put more points up against the Giants defense, who lost a key player in Xavier McKinney over the free agency. With that being said, I'm going to take the Vikings to beat the Giants in week 1. The game that should be a no-brainer, we got the New England Patriots versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Anyone looking at this game shouldn't have to think twice about who's winning it. However, the Bengals over the past few years have always seemed to start their seasons off slow with losing records against teams that they should beat when they have Joe Burrow at quarterback, such as in 2023, starting off 1-3 and losing teams like the Titans and Browns. I don't feel as confident as I would like with this pick, but given the Judon trade and Drake May not being the initial starter, I just can't pick the Patriots to pull off the upset here. I picked the Bengals to start off 1-0 this year. Now, this game is one that is much harder to predict. The Falcons are getting a ton of hype this year, just like they did last year, but given Kirk Cousins coming off that Achilles tear and this Steelers defense being a consistently great defense while under Mike Tomlin, I think even with Russell Wilson at quarterback, the Steelers still find a way to win against the Falcons roster with key young pieces that they're still trying to develop. This is a game that I am very much looking forward to watching, as this could end up being a consistent rivalry for years to come if the Colts and Anthony Richardson find a way to catch that fire and intensity they started last season off with. Richardson clearly has a high upside in his potential, and from what we saw last year and what I saw from CJ Stroud was nothing short of amazing. Given all that, the Texans roster looks poised to be even better with the addition of Diggs. That should have Texans starting off 1-0 against their division rival. Now we come to my upset of the week for week 1. Week 1 is the week that typically has the most upsets throughout the season, and I feel this game has a huge potential for an upset given the Cardinals getting back Kyler Murray, who finished last year hot, and their acquisition of Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft has me somewhat high on this Cardinals team. Not to mention everything the Bills lost in the offseason, such as Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis on the offense, and key pieces such as Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White on the defense. With all that being said, this is my upset of the week for week 1, in which I have the Cardinals beating the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Next up, we got the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, taking on Mayo Man, aka Will Levis, and the Tennessee Titans. Titans did a lot in the offseason to see if they have their quarterback of the future in Will Levis, with acquisitions such as Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. After getting Montez Sweat last year, the Bears turned into a potential top 10 defense and stacked their offense with additions such as Swift at running running back, and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze at wide receiver. Given the defense's success at the end of the season last year and the vast weapons on offense, I see the Bears winning their Week 1 matchup versus the Titans. For our next game, we got the Battle of Florida with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars taking on Tua and the Dolphins in Miami. The Jaguars lost Calvin Ridley, but are hoping Brian Thomas Jr., their first-round pick, can fill that spot on offense alongside Christian Kirk against the Dolphins defense, who just lost Christian Wilkins to the Raiders in the offseason, however just re-signed Jalen Ramsey to a big contract. The Dolphins, however, still have the same explosive offense in which their running backs are healthy again for now, and I just think with the play calling and threats on offense, I think Miami wins this game and wins the 2024 Florida Bowl. Next up, we got another rookie quarterback making his NFL debut as Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos take on Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks getting a new head coach in Mike Macdonald, who is a defensive-minded coach, as well as grabbing defensive tackle Byron Murphy in the draft to pair with their two corners, Witherspoon and Woolen. I see this being a likely top 10 defense, and with Geno still throwing to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett with Kenneth Walker at running back, I just don't see how the Broncos roster can win unless Sean Payton just out-coaches Macdonald in his first game as the Seahawks head coach. I have Seattle winning convincingly over the Broncos. The battle for second place in the AFC West is up next as we have the Raiders taking on the Chargers, both with new head coaches. Raiders sticking with their interim head coach from last year in Antonio Pierce, who they had success with at the end of the year, as well as grabbing a new starting quarterback in Gardner Minshew. Chargers, on the other hand, are still rocking with Herbert, while picking up Jim Harbaugh as their new head coach, coming over from Michigan in college football. When I think of this game, I'm thinking whoever wins in the trenches is going to win this game. Raiders getting Wilkins on that defensive line and Chargers grabbing Joe Alt for their offensive line really makes this a hard decision, but given Jim Harbaugh's success at running the football and his emphasis on it throughout his career as a head coach, I just think the Chargers will win the battle in the trenches and walk away as the victors in Week 1. Then we have America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, taking on the Cleveland Browns. This is a game I think can go either way. The Browns are a very physical AFC North-bred team in which can easily pop the Cowboys in the mouth, in which the Cowboys are much less of a physical team. However, the Cowboys have the key skill positions at quarterback with Dak Prescott, wide receiver with CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons on defense at the edge position, and they showed over the past few years with consistent top 5 offenses and top 10 defenses that they know how to win, at least in the regular season. So I have the Cowboys beating the Browns in Week 1. Up next, we got my Rookie of the Year pick in Jaden Daniels and the Commanders taking on Bake Show, Baker Mayfield, and the Buccaneers. This is a game that if it was a couple weeks into the season, I would take the Commanders, but given the new head coach in Washington, the rookie QB, and the overhaul of new players on both sides of the ball this offseason, I see Washington starting off slow against the Tampa Bay defense, who still has many key pieces from their Super Bowl run a few years ago. And I have Tampa Bay coming out victorious in Week 1. For the Sunday night game, we got Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams taking on Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. This is a rematch from the playoffs last year in which the Lions held on to win in a close 23-24 game. Rams have what looks to be a top 5 offense with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and running back Kyren Williams, who finished last year over 1,000 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. But losing the future Hall of Famer Aaron Donald on defense does hurt. On the offensive side, the Lions were able to keep most of their pieces intact and were able to re-sign Amon-Ra St. Brown. On the defensive side of the football, the Lions drafted Terrion Arnold, a top cornerback prospect, to improve their biggest weakness being their secondary. This is a tough game to pick, which I could see turning into a shootout, but I just have to lean towards the Lions in this one. Lastly, we got Monday Night Football, in which for the second year in a row, Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets start the year on Monday Night Football. If the 49ers and their contract disputes with Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams were still ongoing, or if they were traded, I liked the Jets to upset the 49ers in week 1. That being said, the 49ers locked up Ayuk and Williams for the foreseeable future, in which at least Ayuk should be starting on Monday, and even though the Jets defense is great on paper, I just see the 49ers offense putting up enough points for them to win. And that's the end of my first YouTube video. The video is a bit rushed as this was a out of the blue decision, and I wanted to have it out before Sunday's game started, and I hope I'm able to do that. Please do let me know any feedback you may have or what you may want to see in future videos in the comments below. Also, I would really appreciate a like and if you could subscribe, as it really does go a long way. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.